Your number one Christian hit station and the Strong Blue Line Ministries present Cop Talk. Welcome to the podcast where former San Antonio police officer, author, and pastor Tim Rupp takes you through real law enforcement scenarios and discusses excerpts from his books. This is Cop Talk at its best, and it starts now.
Hello and welcome to the Strong Blue Line's Cop Talk. I'm Tim Rupp in the Rev.FM studio in beautiful Idaho Falls. Here with me is station manager Gary Austin. Hello, Gary.
Hey, Tim Rupp. How's it going?
Things are going well. You know, spring has sprung.
Oh, finally.
We've had some nice days. Of course, we always have the wind and then the rain, and then we always have the late snows that always come.
We do.
But spring is in the air.
Yes.
So that's good, yes.
Like that. Motorcycle riding is in the future.
Motorcycle riding is, yes. Long rides are around the corner, so that's cool.
Good.
Looking forward to that. Hey, we've got a very interesting case to talk about today.
We do. I'm excited.
It's just
so interesting.
So we're gonna talk about this. I've dubbed it the Acorn Shooting.
I like it.
So we're going to talk about that, and people may have heard about it out there. But very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Before we do that, though, we're going to talk about our Officer Down Memorial page, and so we're going to honor the officers who were killed in the line of duty on this date in history. And Gary, I have Deputy Sheriff Thomas Smith from the Penobscot County Sheriff's Office in Maine. End of watch Sunday, March 13th, 1864.
Oh, wow.
1864.
Okay.
So March 13th, that would have been right at the end of the Civil War, because the Civil War is officially over. When did April?
Yeah.
April 64.
Yeah.
Deputy Sheriff Thomas Smith went to arrest a subject near Cleveland in Orozco County. So he went out of his county to arrest this guy. Now, it says here that the man was a known violent criminal, and Deputy Smith had been searching for him for several weeks. So this is the old track down the bad guy.
You're right. Yeah.
Back in the can't say back in the old West because this was Maine. Back in the old East. He learned that the man had been hiding in a barn in Long Lake in Orozco County. He and two assistants located the man hiding beneath a pile of hay in the barn. As Deputy Smith grabbed the man's pistol, the subject pulled out a dirk and stabbed Deputy Smith in the leg several times, severing an artery. One of Deputy Smith's assistants then shot the wounded man before taking him into custody. Deputy Smith bled to death within 10 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, so he hit that artery there. There's not a whole lot you can do.
Right.
You know, that would have been a situation for an immediate tourniquet.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah,
if they would have known at the time what to do. The subject was charged with Deputy Smith's murder, but died of typhoid fever in September of 64 while awaiting trial. So he never went to trial. He died of typhoid fever. Deputy Smith survived by his wife and two children. We do not have an age on Deputy Smith. But stabbed with the dirk. What the dirk is, it's a two-sided knife. It's like a mini spear.
Oh,
so it's
okay.
a little dirk.
I didn't know that.
And he grabbed his pistol and he pulled out a dirk and stabbed him with that.
Man. Yep. The Old East.
Yes. Back in the Old East. What do you have, Gary?
This is Sergeant James R. O'Connor IV. This is Philadelphia Police Department. End of watch on this date in 2020. So 4 years ago. And so Corporal James O'Connor was shot and killed during a SWAT team operation to arrest a homicide suspect. And so the SWAT team was securing the home when the subject opened fire on them through a closed door on a second floor home. And so Corporal O'Connor was struck in the shoulder in an area not protected by his vest.
Oh, wow.
And so I was trying to imagine, getting hit there in the shoulder. But so he was transported to the hospital, but he succumbed to his wounds 20 minutes later.
So where did it say he was at?
The suspect, he was behind a closed door on the second floor.
So I'm thinking he may have been. I don't know if the deputy or the officer was on the first floor, and so it would have been an angle shot down.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Or the officer could have been like bending over, and it shot, because I'm thinking he shot through the top of the shoulder. Or that very well could have happened, especially at a rifle or something, or what he had. Or I worked a case, obviously many years ago, where this guy was shot with the victim was shot with 9. He took 9 rounds, but only 1 was fatal. And that fatal round hit him in the buttocks. So he was running away. But it hit and it traveled upward.
Oh.
And into the heart.
Oh, be darned.
So,
9.
Yeah, he was shot 9 times. But if it wasn't for that one shot, he likely would have survived.
Huh.
So when bullets enter a body, you never know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Sometimes they go straight through. Sometimes they bounce around a little bit. So.
Yep. That's exactly right.
Anyways, that's terrible. So what else we have about him?
Just says the subject who shot him was charged with murder, of course. But quite a rap sheet here for Corporal O'Connor. If you can call it a rap sheet, I guess, where he served.
I wouldn't call it a rap sheet, Gary. I'd call it something else.
But he served quite extensively. How about that?
Okay, where did he serve at?
Philadelphia Police Department for 23 years.
Wow, okay.
He had been a member of the SWAT team for 15 years, and he was posthumously promoted to the rank of sergeant, and survived by his wife and 2 children. One of his sons also served with the Philadelphia Police Department. So he was 46.
46 years old. Wow.
Yeah. Young.
Yeah, in general, I mean, SWAT, they do a lot of dangerous stuff, but generally SWAT officers are not real likely to get shot and killed. Mm-hmm. And the reason why is because they have so much training. They have team movements. They know what they're going into for the most part, And so most, as you can see here, most of the officers that we deal with who are killed in line of duties, I don't know what the percentage is, but I would say, I'm just guessing 90% or more are just patrol officers on patrol making calls. Whether they're killed in an accident, whether they're shot and killed in a traffic stop, and a domestic, it's patrol officers.
Right.
Have the most dangerous job on the police department.
That's interesting. I actually thought about that. I was thinking, well, it says securing the home, and like you just mentioned, their training is pretty extensive. Mm-hmm. So usually they're behind a vehicle or they're guarded before they move in. But it doesn't say they moved in. It was just securing the home.
So they were securing it. That would have been, they may have thought. They may have got intel that we don't know he's there. We think he left. Yeah. So they're going through securing it to making sure, saying, okay, it's secure. There's nobody in the house. That's what they're doing. They're moving through the house. They're moving up to the house.
I see.
And if he's on the second floor, shot through a door, they may have been in the hallway and just lined up as a team down the hallway, and all of a sudden their shot comes through the door and hit the officer.
Oh, that's scary.
So it is. It's a dangerous job.
It sure is.
So
Respect
we like
our officers.
Honor these officers for the ones that have been killed in the line of duty.
Yeah.
Okay, a couple more things before we get on to our interesting article today. Catch Cop Talk on Amazon, Google, Apple, Spotify podcast platforms. And also, Gary, don't forget our fundraiser is coming up. It's still a little bit out there, May 13th through the 18th. So we still got a couple months to go.
We do.
May 13th through the 18th, portion of all proceeds will go to the Strong Blue Line Foundation. That's at Moose Ridge Coffee at the Snake River Landing.
Snake River Landing.
Moose Ridge Coffee. They are open from 7 to 3, Monday through Saturday.
Yeah.
So come on
That's
out
awesome.
there. Sherry and I
cool.
plan on being there Friday and Saturday.
I love it.
So come on out there and support the Strong Blue Line.
Yes.
Get yourself a cup of Joe.
Yep.
Cup of Joe to
Moose
go
Ridge.
or a cup of Joe to stay. It doesn't matter. Okay, so what we have here, this is very interesting, and the title of it, and this comes from Police One. The title of it is Officer Confuses a Fallen Acorn for a Gunshot. And here's why this could easily happen. So you read this, you're like, come on, really? What's going on? But
what is this?
This is written by Scott Savage, and Scott Savage is he's retired Santa Clara Police Department officer after 24 years serving in Santa Clara, California. He is the founder and CEO of Savage Training Group. So Scott Savage is the one that wrote this. So he's a retired police officer. And when I heard about the story and started doing some investigation, then I read his article. I really liked his article. He did a good job with this. So we're just going to go through there and talk about this article.
Yeah.
And so, once again, the title of it: Officer confuses a fallen acorn for a gunshot. Here's why it can easily happen. Imagine how policing can improve if instead of just investigating incidents to find blame, we also investigated incidents to learn how to avoid them happening in the first place. That makes a lot of sense, Gary.
Yeah, it really does.
This is a terrible, tragic thing that happened. We need to learn from it. Mm-hmm. And this article is dated February 19th, 2024. Early in 2024, a body-worn camera footage was released showing a Florida deputy mistaking a fallen acorn striking his vehicle with the sound of a gunshot. He then shot several rounds at the handcuffed and unarmed prisoner sitting in the patrol car. The video went viral within and outside policing. Perhaps more tragic than the incident is the fact that the rest of the law enforcement industry won't get a chance to learn why it happened nor how to prevent it from happening again. So, Gary, I was able to see the video. Did you watch that video?
I did. Yeah, I watched the video.
It's an amazing video.
It is.
It's if I know it's still out there, you can look it up.
Yep.
If you just put in probably officer shoots falling, somebody falling acorn or something, it's going to pop up in YouTube. And what happens is this. Let me tell you a little bit about the story. Then we'll walk through with it. So as the officer responded, he got a call for a theft suspect. And he contacted the suspect, handcuffed him, and patted him down. Now, that's very critical that he contacted the suspect. He was not under arrest. He was being detained while the officer was furthering the investigation. So when an officer does that, officers have the right to detain somebody by handcuffing them. Mm-hmm. They can actually handcuff them and pat them down. That is the old Terry stop, where they pat them to see if they have any weapons on them that may hurt the officer. Generally, what they do, they handcuff them, do a quick pat around the waist and maybe the legs a little bit, and put them in the police car. You don't do a thorough search.
Okay.
So they did that. They put him in the back of a patrol car while he continued to investigate. Mm-hmm. He went to investigate. Part of the investigation was he contacted the suspect's girlfriend. The girlfriend was talking about him and showed pictures of the suspect where the suspect was holding a silencer. Mm-hmm. So now and the officer's thinking about, well, this guy may be armed with a pistol that's silenced. It's got a silencer on it. Maybe I didn't feel it in the quick pat down I did. He developed probable cause to arrest. Mm-hmm. So now he's going to go back to his car, get the suspect out of the car, do a thorough search to make sure that he's not carrying a silencer, all this other stuff. And so he goes back to the car. He starts walking back towards the car. As he's doing so, an acorn fell from a tree above and hit the top of the police car. Now, if you haven't heard an acorn hit, sometimes they're pretty loud.
Right. Yeah, they really are.
And remember, and he's thinking silencer. Mm-hmm. So he hears this sound that sounded to him like a silent gun going off. Mm-hmm. Remember, this would have been a silencer fired from inside a police car that's closed up. Mm-hmm. So it's not going to be a really loud thing either way.
Right. It's true.
He felt he started screaming, shots fired, and he pulled out his gun. He felt like he was hit. He said, I've been shot. He shot into his own patrol car, shot into the back of it, ended up striking the suspect and killing the suspect. The officer went down. Other officers responded. There's another officer there with them. Other officers responded. They found out that he realized that he wasn't hit, that he just went down, and the suspect did not have any weapons or anything in the car. So all of this tragic loss of life happened because the officer mistook an acorn falling out of a tree for a shot being fired at him, and he thought he was hit. So you scratch your head and you're like, how in the world can this happen? Well, it's a very interesting case. So let's go through it. And I'm not going to read down there what here we know, because I just kind of talked about all that's going on. So at the bottom of that page, it says this: even an untrained observer could watch the video and find fault with the deputy's response, but that isn't what our analysis. That's not where our analysis should end. After watching the video, one astute poster on LinkedIn noted, quote, "Just blaming this on somebody not doing their job well enough, that's like pointing at a laceration and proclaiming cut." Okay, but like why, how, and what do we do about it? And then he says, exactly, what are we going to do about it? Sadly, I'm afraid the answer is nothing. And so the retired officer Savage here makes a good point. What are we going to do about this? This is a tragic situation. We need to learn from it. Why did this officer mistake an Acorn for a gunshot? And could it happen again? Could something like this happen again? He says this. Pardon me?
Yeah, I think so.
It's something. So he says we must investigate the why. Law enforcement officers will watch the viral video, criticize the actions of the deputy, and share silly memes of acorns on their social media feeds. Let me stop right there. A while 2 or 3 weeks ago, I started seeing these memes of officers shooting acorns and squirrels and stuff, and I thought, what is this about? I had no clue what it was about until I read this. I said, that's what it's about. So officers are going to do that.
Right.
I mean, that's where they are.
Yep.
But they will not learn a thing. The reason is that perhaps no investigation into the why will be conducted. The deputy's agency completed an investigation looking for policy violations and found them. So that's what the agency is going to do. The agency is going to look for two things generally. Number one, is there a criminal violation that took place? If there is a criminal violation that took place, there will be a criminal investigation. Secondly, the agency is going to look for policy violation. That's what you have internal affairs for. Internal affairs look for administrative and policy violations. And so they looked for it, and they found policy violation. The local prosecutor's office completed an investigation looking for criminal violations and declined to charge the deputy. So what happened, instead of the officers, the agency that worked for doing that investigation, the prosecutor's office did the investigation, and they declined to charge the deputy with any offense. I was a little bit surprised at that.
Me too. Yeah.
I would think not murder. In murders, you got to have an intention to kill somebody.
Right.
His intention was not to do that. It could go to reckless, but I don't think it was reckless because he believed that his life was being threatened. He really believed that. Maybe criminal negligence, that at the most. But anyways, they did not charge. But who is investigating why this happened? Who is examining the human factors or whether training played into a role? That's very critical, Gary.
It really is. That's true.
Is there something wrong with this officer's character or something wrong with him personally? Is it a training issue? Was he not properly trained for the job? Or is it something else? In plain terms, we may never get to know why this happened and how to avoid this happening again because no one may be asking why. The deputy himself is not incentivized to share his story with researchers. And neither is the agency because it will all be used against them in the inevitable civil lawsuit. So you can understand why they don't want to do this. They don't want to go in and find this. They find out, but we should find out why. If this had been an aviation mishap, the authorities would have come in and investigate the why. The investigation would culminate in a report that the aviation industry could read and learn from. There would be data on things like how many hours the pilot slept in the preceding nights. The industry would then use the findings to make changes in training and procedures. Wouldn't it be amazing if law enforcement mishaps were studied like that instead of only being analyzed for fault? That would be pretty smart to do.
Yes.
Just think of how much the profession could advance. Certainly the other investigations, administrative and criminal, needed to be conducted, but it's tragic that those were that's where the investigations stop. So how can officers learn from this event? What are officers left to do? Many officers have watched the video and posted their criticism on social media. They believe they would never have taken such action. But without a robust analysis of what occurred, how can any of us say for certain how things like priming, post-traumatic stress, sleep deprivation, or any other number of factors might impact our decision-making? Some commenters on social media posted things like, "This guy should never have been a cop. Why are they hiring people like this?" implying that the deputy lacked the kind of mental acuity or stress tolerance needed to be a cop. Those same commentators may be shocked to learn the deputy in this case was a graduate of West Point, an officer in the U.S. Army Special Forces, and was twice deployed to tours in Afghanistan. Without knowing more, the deputy certainly seems like someone with the proper background to thrive in a high-stress environment.
Mm-hmm.
Some commented that the deputy's agency had dealt with several life-threatening incidents in the time preceding the shooting and suggested those incidents played a role. That very well could have been the case.
Right.
If there have been a lot of shootings going on, I mean, this happened last year in 2023 with all the ambush on officers and all the things going on.
Right.
Unfortunately, we may never get to know. We may never have a chance to learn from this incident beyond whatever assumptions can be gleaned simply from watching the video. Certainly, the video does not tell us a lot that we can learn from. But if we were to capture it on video in a highly controversial shooting, I bet you would say that the video doesn't tell the whole story. The agency's investigative report concluded that the deputy subjectively believed that he had been shot and it wasn't objectively reasonable for him to use deadly force. Wouldn't it be good for the rest of us to know what factors caused the deputy to honestly believe that he was shot, even believing his own legs were no longer functioning properly? Remember in the video, he fell down.
Mm-hmm.
He actually fell down.
He did.
This deputy, like every cop, is a human with human performance capabilities, fallibilities, and limitations. Because we all have brains, we must understand how those brains work and what causes our fallible brains to believe things that aren't true. With any luck, this agency will be one of those rare organizations that does take a look at the why and then allows the rest of us to learn from the mishap. You know, I thought this guy did a very good job analyzing everything that went on here.
Yep, I really did too. And, you know, we've mentioned this before, Tim, that think of the officer that this happened to. And I'm not to say regardless of why he did it, but it happened. And imagine, because he left the force, imagine what that officer's going through.
Yeah.
You know, it's I can imagine it's not okay with him. He's probably struggling emotionally, and
I mean he shot and killed an innocent civilian.
Yeah.
That was,
and that's tough.
Once, and not only that, when you take a person into custody, like I said, he wasn't officially arrested, but he was detained. You're responsible for their safety.
Right.
You know, I handcuff you on the side of the road, and somebody's drunk, and I handcuff her on the side of the road, arrest them for DUI, and I let you wander out into the street and get ran over. That's on me.
Yeah.
You know, and so. Yeah, you're exactly right, Gary. I'm hoping the officer's doing well.
Me too.
You know, I mean, the family obviously the guy lost his life, the family, but, you know, we keep the officers in prayer and everything that's going on here.
Absolutely.
Terrible situation, but Mr. Savage, I thought that was an excellent article.
Me too.
One of the best articles I've
really
ever
good.
seen a policeman write. So maybe I'll contact him and thank him for his article.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe we can get him an interview on here.
Yeah, let's do it.
That'd be cool to interview him. Hey, thanks for listening in. If you have a topic or question you want addressed on Cop Talk, send me an email. You can email suggestions, questions, comments, or complaints to coptalk@therev.fm. That's coptalk@therev.fm. Thought from the good book: Blessed be the Lord, my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle. Thank you for joining us and help us make the thin blue line a strong blue line.
Cop Talk is brought to you by the Strong Blue Line Ministries. Visit thestrongblueline.org to learn how you can support them and this podcast. Questions and comments are always welcome by email to coptalk@therev.fm. Follow, listen, and leave a review of the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or Google Podcasts. Cop Talk is produced and edited by Gary Austin and a Rev FM production. Thank you for joining us on Cop Talk.